Hello, coaches, and hello, Ian Barker. How are you?
I'm very good, David. Thank you for having me.
Ian, we are now looking at the third in a series of activities featuring Anson, Dorrance, and Damon Nahas, looking at the topic of improving attacking tempo. And we're going to start off by looking at a video, and then we will look at the diagrams and talk through the methodology.
What we've done and what we do is we track these types of exercises. And really it's for purely on decision making. So it's 3v3 inside the middle. You guys are possessing, no restrictions on touches. All right. Your objective is to try and play the ball outside and then you're going to transition out. So again, in movement. So in here, Joe's responsibility is to recognize where she wants to go. So when I play in here, my responsibility is to come in here and switch. We've all played similar games to this, whether it's 2v2 in the middle, 5v5. But in here, we're going from the last exercise of our movements, and we're trying to see how now in a game-related situation are they able to execute this, okay? So Joe goes in, say she plays, it's still 3 versus 3. Go ahead. You guys are possessing to try and get to the other side as well. Just stay, Joe. Now you're on and off. Play in. Aaron, can you just slide there with the balls? Right on the side. Good. And freeze. Okay, so that's really good. So in that point right here, again, it's about decision making. We want to progress. Now, obviously today it's really on the attacking side, right? So there are many times we would point out and how we want them to defend, right? That's our job to make sure that we're adding those principles as well, how you want to defend in this situation. I'm going to let you guys figure that part out, okay? So in here, you can slide that ball out. The important thing is we just came from there, but they did a good job defending, and a lot of times what we do is we force the ball forward. What we want is good decision making. So in here, player just came, played it here, kept it, which is great. And now she's patient. And now we are patient with it and waiting for a good opportunity for them to become impatient to penetrate them in quick combinations and quick movements. So really good job there. Here we go. Ready? Play. Good. From Aaron. Balls from Aaron. Well done. And get out of it. That's fine. That's fine. Get it done. Get it done. Get it done. Good. Good. And freeze. Okay. So good job. The thing is this, in our tempo, it's important. When you guys come on the field, how many touches did I restrict you to? Just get that ball there. How many touches did I give you? Good, right? Don't fall for that. Unlimited touch. So if this happens, don't feel panicked, right? Drop off green, drop off green, drop off green. So in here, when you're coming on the field, you're looking for the pass. Sometimes, what is the game telling you? What can I do? To attack your space, right? To create it. And if I get in here and there's no options, boom, I always know my safety. I can come back, right? So have a confidence about you. Don't misunderstand that. It's a choice that you get to make. It's really, really important, all right? Now, in here, the last one that I'm going to get on Joe about in this is Joe in the last one came here, dribbled here, and what did that do? It brought a defender, which made it harder for her to get out of, right? But in this case, tempo, timing, movement, and just be confident. Don't worry about the mistakes, all right? Don't be in fear of that, okay? Just play the ball in. Here we go. Good touch. Good. And get out of it if you can. Good job, ladies. Well done. That's okay. What are they not doing? They're not competing, right? They are competing because they're working hard. But ultimately what we do is we have this as points, right? So we track it. So in here, everything is, it might be by the, a game by time. And every time that ball is played wide, and this ball is completed, it's a point. That's a goal. That's what we consider it, okay? If it's not completed, it's not a goal. So in here, every time that ball comes out and it's completed back in is a goal, okay? Then we can add different layers. Again, depending on the level of the players you're playing with, you can create a high demand. What happens with us in our environment, the amount of abuse that we take of the ones keeping score is a time where I stop playing this game, right? But in here, what happens is when we play it, you're playing the ball, okay, played it to me, you come off, and I complete this pass, all right? If she goes back here, play her, and then complete the pass, that's not a goal. It's maintaining possession. The next goal has to come by switching the point of the attack. That's important, okay? But we also don't want them to force it if it's not on. So we just scored, not on there. We got to keep possession, make a better decision, and wait till that next opportunity comes, okay? So for the next minute, we're going to play the last minute. I want you to keep score. Ladies, I know you're going to join into the next possession, so I haven't forgotten about you. Okay, so in here, as it goes, keep track of your score and loud, so there's no misunderstanding, okay? Ready? Play. Just stay, Joe. One yellow out. One yellow has to go out. There you go. Good. And stop. Was that a goal? Was that a goal? Why was it not a goal? Have you scored any goals? That was a goal, by the way. All right, so you scored a point. Make sure, the most important thing is that they are aware of exactly what the rules that you're saying. All right, and then hold them accountable. So right now, that ball was played, it was completed, and no one had the voice to say it. Now, in this case, you guys weren't aware that it was a goal. Okay, but if it was a goal, make sure they're saying it loud, because all of a sudden when you say, what's the score? And someone says 3-2, the other one says 4-3, and then it becomes a complete nightmare. Okay, so here we go. Ready? Play.
So, Ian, we see another activity looking at the topic of attacking tempo, and this time we see a lot more free movement of players. So the setup is an end zone at either end of the field, a short end zone, maybe 5 yards wide, and the width of the field. And then we see in the middle, we see 3 versus 3 in the center of the field, whites and the yellow team. Whites have possession of the ball, and then each team has a player at both ends of the field that operates within that end zone. And the objective is for the team in possession to move the ball, but those 3 players, to try and beat the 3 players in the middle, move the ball to the other end, to the end zone, to score a point. And a point is scored if the ball travels from one end zone to the other, and then you get another point if you go back in the other direction. So there's both directions on this activity, certainly to begin, and a point is scored from one end to the other, north to south and south to north. Ian, let's talk about the methodology.
Yeah, so once again, it's a breaking the lines type opportunity. That is to say that we have got to get, the white team has to get from this end and to penetrate into the far end. So there is a goal, if you will, for the player at the top. The player at the far end becomes the goal. So as we look at this as coaches, let's be clear that this is actually in possession 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 against 3 yellows, because the 2 yellows in the end zones are effectively out of it. So the first thing, and Damon talked about it, is this player is your safety outlet pass. So if the ball goes in here, pressure is good, and we go back, we've used a support player. However, we don't count that as a goal or exchange positions. We exchange positions when we finally penetrate to the far end and one of us jogs out, and then this player comes in with the ball. So I really like those exchanges, and I like the idea of the 5v3 using the support player. You may consider at some point to say you can't go back to the support player. So now it's a 3v3 in the center and you've got the target. And of course, one of the things that we as coaches want to make sure is that these target players are making themselves available, as are our support players for sure. It's a one direction and then back the other way. So it has a little bit of a stress on you from a functional point of view. So I think this is more of a central midfield type activity. Or you could put some players in on the outside of the grid wide, and then you start talking about incorporating width and flank play. But primarily, this is a possession numbers up activity with a lot of implication for movement and complementary movement in and off the ball.
And Ian, one of the changes that coaches could make if they want to make it very functional, and meaning that the left player is always on the left-hand side, the right side player is always on the right-hand side, is to actually have a supply of balls at both ends, with the whites going in one direction and then the yellows going in the other direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, again, if you wanted to make it a little bit more team functional, you might decide to run the grid this way. So now you've got more width and less length, and then maybe you position, and then you attack one way and you defend one way. So you're really changing the nature of the activity up. But what you now do is you maybe say, okay, I've got a left flank player, a central player, a central player, a central player, and my target's here. And so now it's like my midfield playing into my striker, or maybe my back four playing into my number 6 if I flip the grid. When we're going this way and this way, just lots of activity, lots of possession. I think for me, this is very much a central midfield type activity.
So in the second sequence, having made the pass into the final end zone, the player that passed the ball will now go and jog into the area to be the target. The player receiving the ball in the end zone now dribbles on or passes. In this case, the player's decided to dribble in, and she's then passed the ball to a teammate. There was no restriction on the number of passes required in order to get it to the end zone. So the player has received the ball on the half turn. So they're now facing forward and sees an opportunity to play into the target player for the point, Ian.
Yeah, so this is a great part of this type of game for me. So you can see, as you said, David, this player was the target. They've received it. They've chosen to dribble in here, and then a player has jogged out for them. So I like that type of decision making. Initially, when you get it going, you might say the player that plays the scoring pass is the one that jogs out. But now you want to make it a bit more sophisticated. So if we look here, pass comes in, pass comes out to the target, we've scored. Now the question is, should this player run out? Or possibly could this player run out? Because if the player receiving the ball here now wants to attack, they're probably going to want to dribble into this space. So this player could stay where they are, and it's this player that exchange positions. So it's not always the nearest or the one that executes. It's the one that's going to create the most logical playing opportunity for the player that comes in with the ball. If this player decides she's not going to dribble it in, but she's indeed going to pass it in, then, of course, this player wants to stay in the action. This one comes out, and this one would then come in and support. So wonderful opportunities for players to identify the most logical movement, again, with Damon empowering them rather than the prescribed movement. So that's a big takeaway for this activity.
Yeah, and one of the things that was interesting, Ian, is it's a very simple activity, and these were some higher level college players who struggled in that tighter space.
Yeah, I mean, it's you've got to have the technical ability to play this activity. I think if Damon was probably reflecting and it was a session, he would start with a bigger space, let the players get comfortable so there's less turnovers, and then you would tighten the space up as their technical level and game understanding improved. Remember that what you're seeing there is a clinic session. So he's never met the players before, and they're just trying to understand him and the demands of the activity and be in front of an audience of 1,200 that he's talking to. So it's not the most pure training environment. So for me, I would make it bigger. I'd let them play a little bit, and then I'd start to add in the nuances of the activity, and then I'd start to make the grid a bit smaller.
And in this final sequence, I've illustrated it so we understand what happens with a turnover. So whites were in possession, and the two players have now had a tackle, and the yellow players now won the ball. So that yellow player now finds one of her teammates, and then she then plays into the target. Now that essentially resets the game. It doesn't score a point. So to score a point, the yellows now are going in the reverse direction, and in order to score the point, they must get the ball to the other target player. And one of the things to certainly note, and for those of us who've been in this situation, with particularly with youth players, will realize the importance of having the players remember and even call out loudly the scores, because if it relies on the coach, there's no win insight for the coach on that particular type of activity.
Yeah, absolutely. So I like this this adaptation to the game. So the point is, again, as David talked about, when the out of possession team wins it, essentially they can go either way, right? So what that does is it does have that effect of resetting the game. So in this case, the yellow players won it. They could easily have turned and gone back, but they've elected to go forward, and we've got out, and we've now reset the game. So now everybody knows which end they're defending and which end they're trying to attack. I think reflected here is now the speed of thought. I've scored the point. Now I've become into the game quickly to try to progress the ball to get the other way. So this make it, take it, which we talk about a lot in some of our training games, is a really nice flow. And potentially the 5 players in possession can keep these 3 defenders in here for a very long period of time, a very long sustained period of possession, if we're thinking quickly off the ball. And even here, the movement arrow that David put in suggests that the target player is already ready to go. So if you look at it now, dispossession, forward pass into the end zone, dribble in, pass it, knock it into the end zone. And now this player can bring it back straight back in. So a real challenge for the 3 defenders when we're playing in this 360-degree environment. And absolutely, Damon was very strong on it, and I very much agree. It's so much nicer for this coach to watch the action than to have to be the scorekeeper. So you really need your players to step up for you and be the scorekeeper, so you as the coach can appreciate the movement and the technique, which is what you're there for.
And for coaches who are looking for a little extra content, just a reminder, we produce a series of manuals. The website address is at the bottom of the screen, and they come in both hard copy and also in PDF. So you can instantly get activities if you buy the PDF version. So thank you, coaches, for joining us, and thank you, Ian, and we'll see you on the final activity in this series.